Okay, it's 5:30, February 21st, 25th, excuse me. 2025, we are in the Veterans Conference Room in Mandan City Hall. This is a special meeting working session. Mr. Newbauer, will you please take the roll?
Commissioners Henshaw. Here. Braun. Here. Rohr.
Here.
Schubert. Here. Mayor Freilich.
Here. Let's look at the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, there's no, we have the agenda before you.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for.
So we'll have a motion by Commissioner Heinchan, seconded by Commissioner Braun. Any discussion? Hearing none.
Commissioner Braun.
Yes.
Commissioner Rohr.
Yes.
Commissioner Schubert.
Yes.
Commissioner Henshaw.
Yes.
Mayor Freilich.
Yes. All right, on to new business. Item number 1, long-term financial planning, infrastructure projects. Jared, you got 15 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Commissioners. Wanted to go over kind of where we're at with our infrastructure capital improvement planning. And give the commission a structured way to evaluate and provide feedback on project prioritization. So what we're going to be presenting on today. Our capital improvement plans have been 2 parallel efforts. A2S has been creating a plan for utility focused projects, and Moore has been creating a plan for transportation focused projects. There is a little bit of overlap between these 2 plans. And where there is overlap, they're represented in both documents, and the consultants have coordinated data. I would just like Leif and Grant to maybe give a quick summary of the process up to this point, just so that the commission can get an understanding, because I think this is the first time you've been exposed to it since you approved the 5-year plan. Maybe Leif can start and Grant can follow up.
Sure. Leif, thanks with the A2S, like Jared mentioned. We were helping with the utility side of things. So back in October, we did some working sessions with engineering and public works and some of the key staff, some of the superintendents, to kind of walk through some of the projects that they're currently considering over the next 5 to 10 years. And most of those projects were directly related at some point to planning documents that have been prepared in the past. Planning documents would be distribution master plan, which was completed back in 2007, a water treatment master plan that was done back in 2006, a collection system master plan completed back in 2012, and then a wastewater treatment facility master plan, which was recently updated in 2023. So each one of these master plans is a pretty big effort where they look at populations, potential projections over a period, typically 20 years. They do some benchmarking for amount of water treated, current capacity, age of infrastructure, to really kind of dig into what types of projects should the city be considering and trying to prioritize those. So we use those as the basis for a lot of the projects that we're currently showing in this capital. And then as part of the workshop, we worked with staff to help prioritize what your staff thought they should move forward. And some of them are driven by age of infrastructure, some are driven by regulatory drivers, some are driven by capacity issues, and then some are also just driven by growth. So as the city continues to expand, you need more lift stations, you need more water mains, and so those can lag depending on focus for growth in that area. So feedback was taken in October. Overall, worked with more engineering and city staff to kind of refine, develop those. And then I think some of the things you'll see tonight are a result of that.
Grant Doctor with Moore Engineering. We took a very similar approach. We started with a couple plans as well. The DOT has a few planning documents. They use a long-range transportation plan, which is about, it looks out 20+ years. That one's looking out really far. But then they also have a STIP, the statewide transportation improvement program, and that's about a 4-year look. So Those are DOT plan projects, and then you also have the Bismarck Mandan MPO. They have an MTP, which again, Metropolitan Transportation Plan, looks 20 years out. And then the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program, that's looking 4 years out as well. So those are the programs with the DOT and the MPO. We started there with the list, and then we did the same thing. We sat down with planning, finance, public works, administration, and we walked through the projects. What's a priority? When do we think that these should be scheduled? When do they fit in? There's different types of projects as far as aging infrastructure. So you look at Mandan proper project, that would be an aging infrastructure. So replacing the road, and then also that has a utility component to it as well. So that's why it would be represented in both CIPs. Then you have growth, you have urbanization. So extending 8th Avenue, extending 27th, extending Sunset, those types of projects would be urbanization projects. And then maintenance projects, we started to schedule those in there. We broke the city into 7 sections based on area and recent projects. And then we've scheduled projects for chip sealing, tree trimming, striping, just the miscellaneous catch-all project to clean those areas up and do that routine maintenance in neighborhoods. So we started to schedule those in there. And then of course there's DOT-led projects where you guys might have a small share in that, whether it's the I-94 Grant Marsh Bridge or Memorial Highway, things like that, where it's led by the DOT, but you're going to share in those costs. So again, the drivers for those are going to be your aging infrastructure, taking care of that stuff, growth, and then funding is another big aspect of it too. If you guys get a grant for a project, that might boost it up to the front of the list just because funding is readily available at the time. So those are the components we looked at when we put this together as well.
Okay, thank you, Lathan and Grant. All right, I will keep moving on here. Each of the capital improvement plans will include project cut sheets. This will be kind of 1-page documents, 1 to 2-page documents for each project, so you can get kind of a feel for the project. They do have a little bit of different flavor between the 2 plans, but they do contain the same foundational information. Those being project name, project description, year, funding, and priority. Name and description, well-defined. This is something that we're not really asking the commission to review, but if you feel as you're reading through the projects that something is scoped incorrectly, we could make changes to this. Or if you have a name reference, we could make changes to that. Project funding. The approach we took with this was we made assumptions on how these projects would be funded, what funding would be available, if we were awarded a grant, if we were not awarded a grant. We kind of just made assumptions and then we defined those assumptions that were made. There is an opportunity. We could introduce the idea of project versions where we have a project prioritization that's based off of if we have funding or if we don't have funding, and have kind of 2 different versions of that project represented on a priority list. Project year. This is pretty flexible, probably going to have a lot of commission input, not necessarily for today, but probably for discussion towards the end with funding time kind of taken into account, taking into account what's high priority, what's realistic, and then maybe what fits in a particular funding year, what fits nicely if we have all the excess funds that we have every single year to do all these projects. So and then I did have an asterisk in there for project year. Some project timing may be out of our control. Lathan and Grant touched on that. NDDOT projects, we don't have complete control over when those projects happen. And then there's other projects too that are like wastewater treatment plant where we don't have great flexibility. We know that it has to happen within a window, and beyond that, we really don't have an option to kick it further down the line. Today, our focus is going to be on project priority. This is going to be your best opportunity as a commission to provide input and direction for the goals that you want to accomplish in these next 5 years. And we want to represent the commission's goals and wishes in the project prioritization list. Here, tonight's goals for this meeting: receive an update on the status of 5-year capital improvement projects. We can cross that off. Merit criteria evaluation, that's what we're going to talk about soon. And consider a structure, review, and feedback process. This is something that we put together for this meeting. Future meetings or in between meetings, we would ask that the commissioners review what we're providing today and provide feedback in the structured way that we've provided, or in an unstructured way. We're really flexible with how you want to provide feedback, but we want to give it to you in a way that you can wrap your arms around. And then for the next meeting, we'll probably talk about the individual projects and verify with the commission that the revised prioritization matches your expectations and you feel properly represented in the prioritization list. I am going to put a warning in here because our project prioritization starts very narrow, and we're going to get in the weeds with project prioritization, but by the end, my goal is to get back into a very narrow scope that is palatable for commissioners. Right now, priority in each capital improvement plan is labeled as 1, 2, 3, I think, in A2S's document, and high, medium, low in Moore's document. Those are really easy to digest, but they don't give you a whole lot of information. Our definition for the purposes of tonight's meeting and for this capital improvement planning with project priority, our definition is how well a project aligns with the city's goals. And we developed a system for project prioritization, and we took inspiration from the Bismarck-Mandan Metropolitan Planning Organization scoring system, NDDEQ scoring system, and we also took some components of our build raise application criteria go to inspire what a proper prioritization scoring system might look like. There are 5 major categories that we identified in this process. Those are urgency and need, impact and benefits, cost effectiveness, community input, and strategic alignment. And this is where we're going to get in the weeds here. Under each of these 5 major categories, we identified some subcategories for each. In urgency and need, we identified 2 subcategories. Those are public health and safety and infrastructure condition. Some examples of public health and safety would be reducing crash frequency, mitigating hazards, supporting emergency services, and providing water quality improvements. Infrastructure condition, those are types of projects that would address volatile infrastructure or provide high quality services equally through the community.
I'll just point out that you do have this.
Yes,
in front of you.
I am going to be rattling off a few things here, but yeah, you do have it on the sheets in front of you. That's easier for you to digest or just look over briefly. Impact and benefits. We identified 3 subcategories. Those are commercial and industrial support, quality of life improvements, and resiliency. I might not go over each of these individually, but if you have questions or comments, maybe just stop me and I can expand on kind of the thought process behind each of these. Cost effectiveness, we have 3 subcategories in cost effectiveness: sustainable development, utilization of outside funding, and enhanced public operations. Community input, we have 2 subcategories. One of them is public demand, and the other is collaboration. There's maybe these are quite a bit of overlap between these 2, but there is, I think, enough difference between the 2 to represent them separately. And then strategic alignment, we have 2 subcategories for that. That would be the projects would be weighed on if they are consistent with existing plans or if they're utilizing data-driven decision-making. So if you followed along, that is 12 subcategories, and an overall project score is based off of each project's merits in each one of these subcategories. Each project was graded on a scale of 1 to 10 for each of these merit criteria. And I'm going to give some examples here. Clarifier optimization project, wastewater treatment plant project. This project scored highly in public health and safety, infrastructure condition, resiliency, and enhanced public operations. And it scored poorly in utilization of outside funding and commercial industrial support. This is just how we ranked each of these individual merit criteria. These are up for discussion as well. Another example, future MPO study. We participate in studies with the Metropolitan Planning Organization all the time. This scored highly in utilization of outside funding, data-driven decision-making, resiliency, collaboration, scored poorly in infrastructure condition and public demand. Not a whole lot of people are clamoring for a brand new MPO study. Okay, so we have those 12 criteria ranked on a scale of 1 to 10. If we wanted to, we could add up all of those to come up with an overall project score. That would be 10 times 12, 120. total maximum score. Clarifier optimization from this scoring, if we took this scoring approach, we'd score a 79 out of 120. And this is if each of the merit criteria had equal weight. And this is how the list is currently presented. Each criteria, collaboration and public safety, are equal in the way that this is represented right now. And that would be, this is kind of getting to where we're asking for feedback. There's two dials that we can kind of change in order to kind of bring the prioritization list in line with what the commission's goals are. And those two dials are how much we weigh each merit criteria. Public safety could be given an emphasis, or public safety could be de-emphasized, and we could be emphasizing utilization of outside funding, something like that. We also would have an opportunity to kind of influence prioritization based on individual project grades. We have them graded out individually at this point on a scale of 1 to 10 for each of the merit criteria. If there is something that appears to be off, we can make a change there. And I do have here examples of how those will affect scores. Here's an example of the clarifier optimization project. If we emphasize public health and safety and resiliency, and we de-emphasized utilization of outside funding and collaboration, clarifier optimization would move from a 79 score of 79 to a score of 87. And over here, you can kind of see how we've assigned different weights to those 4 categories, and they still add up to 12. So the total weight doesn't really matter. It's more of a how they relate to each other. Another example is if sanitary treatment funding became available, clarifier optimization, utilization of outside funding grade might bump up from a 1 to a 7, increasing its score and increasing its priority. And I think that makes sense intuitively. If funding became available for a project during a short window of time, we would want a prioritization to represent on if we should bump that ahead of another project or not. So we created for today and for after this meeting, we created 3 documents to use for a structured prioritization review. And we have those in front of you today. The first is a merit criteria list and the definitions for each of the merit criteria. We have a list of project rank, grades, and total score. And this is based off of equal for each of the merit criteria. And then we have an input sheet. And what we are asking for the commission to do is, as they review draft versions of the capital improvement plans, to look over them and maybe take a look at the current grades, the current ranks, and give us feedback on what feels off or what feels could be improved on. The prompts that I have here are there merit criteria that should be emphasized, eliminated, or added? Are there projects that seem too low or too high? Are there projects that you feel are missing from the list? Are there projects that seem to be rated incorrectly? And then do you have additional comments or requests? And then we have the 12 merit criteria listed down here. And you could rank them according to how important or more important or less important they are as far as the next 5 years, what the city's goals should be in the next 5 years.
Because everything's equal right now.
Right now, everything is equal.
So here you're asking us on the bottom to make different merits graded higher or lower.
Yep.
Okay.
And honestly, this is a structured feedback. This is our goal would be to interpret what you give to us into the mathematics or the mechanics of the rating system. But if you feel comfortable providing unstructured feedback outside of the document that we've given you, we could do that too. Results. So after we adjust the data based on the feedback that we get, we could have personalized priority lists for each commissioner. That'd be very easy to produce. And then we could have a composite commission priority list where we take each commissioner's personal priorities, combine them, and have a resulting list that is representative of the entire commission. I did an example here that just showed how I weighed different categories. Kind of randomly, the total weight, 122, doesn't really matter what that is, but we end up with a different priority list here. And the total score isn't 120 anymore, it's some crazy, yeah, I guess it's 122. Okay, so at the end of that, we would have a score, a project, overall project score distribution like this. Each one of these dots represents a project, an overall project score, and this does show projects as they are currently represented. We would identify logical breaks in that distribution, and then we would use that to recategorize them back into high, medium, and low projects. And this would ultimately be what is represented on the project cut sheet. So we're kind of taking that, what was really simple and nebulous and undefined on a project sheet, giving it a whole lot of meaning in the middle through a very regimented and structured process. And then we're going to come back out with, once again, something that's really easy to read, palatable, but something hopefully that the commission could have confidence in how priority is representative of the commission's goals. Yeah, getting back to that, how well projects align with city's goals. And then that's really all I have for a presentation today. Questions, comments, and concerns. Let me know what you think.
Is joking about the 15.
Yeah.
I just want to know, we're providing mostly what I call a layman's view, because some of the stuff requires some more intricate insight into what's going on, like your expertise and others here in engineering firms. So I just want to emphasize that much of our view will be from a layman point of view. Some of it is common sense. Some of it is nebulous.
Yeah.
So it's somewhat subjective.
Yep, absolutely. And I think that's really what we want. I mean, introducing subjectivity is kind of the commission's ability to put their mark on what a prioritization might look like. In my mind. And we are trying to gather data in a way that is maybe more conversational than it is data driven. We don't want to ask you guys to say this should be a 7 and this should be an 8 and stuff like that. We want you to be able to say this project, based on my gut feeling, feels like it should be higher. And if that project is particularly focused on public health and safety, we would interpret that as maybe public health and safety needs to be weighed more in our priority calculation. So that is kind of our idea and our approach. But we are also open to anything that the commission is comfortable.
I see roughly 69 projects.
Correct.
So in terms of with 69 projects, how do we go about getting an overview or an understanding what these projects are?
That is where the capital improvement planning documents with cut sheets come in. We have larger documents, even larger documents that have descriptions of each individual project. If you're not familiar with it, we'd be able to familiarize yourself with a particular project.
So we have to study those out, basically.
Yep, nobody's asking you to do that today. Nobody's asking you to do that in a short period of time. You're asking maybe, over the next few weeks. Take a look. And even if you don't get through all the projects, but you see a common theme among projects that you feel are underrepresented or overrepresented, we could base our criteria adjustments just based on what you feel like is a common theme among those or that you're finding. Yeah.
Or if you kind of look through the base list of projects and you see a project, you're like, oh, well, why is this so high? And you want us to explain it, we're more than welcome to answer that question. But it's just more doing the background to look at everything as a whole and kind of taking all at once.
Yeah.
And then kind of divvying it out that we'll do back to the project.
I did also, I asked a few folks from the city and from outside of the city to go through this process. And I have included in your packet example input sheets. Carrie, Riley, Grant, and Andrew provided me with examples of what that feedback could look like. It's not necessarily their feelings about it's not necessarily representative of their feelings, but I wanted to provide examples of what your feedback could look like. Maybe just to give you guys ideas of how to go about the review process.
So I understand then the 26 to 31, the project review input sheet then is an overview of how we view these 60 projects.
Correct.
In terms of giving you a one sheet overview.
Yep.
of that.
And if it's not big enough, you could print out a few of these sheets, or I could print out a few of these sheets, and, you know, you could get more ideas out onto the page if you needed it.
Do we send you the bill?
Send me the bill.
Jared, where is Mandan proper?
On the current priority list?
It is 2. In all the different places.
Yeah, the
Okay.
phases are, tied for 2.
Okay, so. Top 5 projects critical to the operation of the city.
Critical to the operation of the city.
Yeah, I don't care about public safety.
Um,
Critical for the city to operate.
Enhanced public operations was the only,
So,
I still have public demand. If enhanced public operations was the only demand, well, we would have city hall renovation, clarifier optimization, new fire station, chip sealing, landfill improvements. This would be the ordered list, and it should be, based on this column here.
Those scores are from your test subjects?
These scores, these for each individual project. This is my interpretation
Okay.
of how each project fits within each of these categories. So that would be probably another weakness in the process so far. And it would be best probably to get a wider perspective on each of these individual projects.
Yours, this isn't 4 people get tested.
No, this is mine. This is mine. I had them, it's just provide input. Just to show what input might be.
Your guinea pigs.
Guinea pigs. I didn't want to say it, but if you say it.
Thank you for not including.
Yeah.
That makes sense, because that's one of my questions of public demand. How do you quantify that? You know, how do we gather that? This is that's what you're looking for at this point. Because it's hard for us to sit here and say, well, in the past, we've had, especially in my position, right? I've had X amount of people talk to me about this area, right? Because that window's a lot smaller than maybe Commissioner Braun and Lord, right? So that's a hard one to quantify, I believe, public demand.
Absolutely. And here I did just change it. So public demand is the only priority here. Sunset Drive interchange, clarifier optimization, 27th Street, north of 24th. Island Road paving, we hear this one talked about all the time. And it's low priority in other aspects, but we do hear about this one all the time. Mandan proper projects, Sunset Drive urbanization. So
You want to go, can you pull up the Highland Road?
I sure can.
Just to go through an example of the cut sheet and.
Oh, the
one of
cut
those
sheet.
meetings.
I hope I have, I don't think I have your guys' stuff. Sorry. I don't think I have that cut sheet available right now. The only cut sheet I pulled was from
You
area 2D.
I would walk through that and.
Yeah.
So that everybody kind of can see what. I know you have the arrows and the rectangles and that.
Sorry.
Another question.
Drilling stick?
Yeah.
So, or
Shoot under one.
Another question I have is, so we do these individually, correct?
Yep.
And then will the opportunity come out, let's say we had to work, then let's say the commissioners as a group now, look at what they individually shared and refine it as a one mindset.
Yep.
that would occur or will not occur?
Yep, that's the intent. So we'll gather those input sheets from all 5 of you. And then we'll take that and put it into make each commissioner a priority list. And then we'll have a combined commission priority list. So we'll have a shoulder priority
So,
list.
but,
and have a roll
but the
priority
5
list.
commissions by themselves can get together and we do this.
Yep,
After it's done.
after we get the input sheets back.
I mean, to me, that would be the mechanical way of doing it.
So here, I was able to get it. Here's the cut sheet for the Highland Road project. Section of Highland Road is currently gravel. It has been requested by residents that this roadway be paved. Project scope would include construction of roadway section to meet city design standards, and the roadway would be an asphalt paved rural section, $580,000. And we do have kind of a area map of this. This is the north end of Highland Road. I can probably pull it up on a different map, but no project pictures, but that'd be an example of familiarizing yourself with the Highland Road project.
Kind of a low priority from a operational standpoint of the city. But because we hear people calling and saying, when are you gonna pave this road? It's one we hear, maybe it's a vocal minority of the folks that live there, but in the big scheme of things, it's not that big a priority for the city to operate. Now, if these folks want to pay the $580 for special assessments on that road, petition it in and we'll do it, but it's gonna be very expensive because it's not a collector road or arterial road or anything like that, and the folks who live on that road would be expected to pay for it. So you probably have 10, 20 properties along there divided by $580,000. That's gonna be a pretty expensive endeavor. Would it be worth the city putting resources that we have towards the project, or is it's sitting out there? If they want it paved, they can petition it in and get paid, but it's going to be a local cost to them, not spread citywide or anything like that. So again, one of the vocal minorities that we hear a lot, but in the big scheme of things, it doesn't rise to that level. But as you score and rate projects, we'll get a better feeling on what you all think it lies in your words. So like I said, I think Jared, 'cause at the end of the day, we want to take each one of your individual score sheets, accumulate them, and through that process, those highest priorities will rise to the top. And then it'll be the opportunity for then as a commission, are these the priorities that you see are as important, or we can have those discussions back and forth, because I think this is a fairly objective way to get to that point individually, but as a group, you may see, I don't know why we thought that one was the highest priority, because there's these other ones, and then that's where the discussion happens, is how should we start attacking some of these issues.
We could have an attachments to these. My handwriting's bad. I wouldn't want anybody to have to read it, but I can type out an attachment to these and that would be that good night.
Whatever is easiest for these guys. to
Absolutely, I
rank
could
and
provide you with a different format if you prefer me sending you a Word document, and if you want to just type things out. I have this I locked up Excel here, so
Or I could just draw.
go. But,
You pull up another cut sheet and just, I think going through a couple examples would be advisable.
yeah, anyone in particular that we want to look at? Is there a good one or a one that?
Eighth, 27th.
You could just go into a narrative form with the 5 questions there. Too, the narrative form using Word and just answer it that way.
Here's 8th and 27th cut sheet. Purpose and need, this area of Mandan has seen significant growth in recent years. The addition of the new middle school, high school and developments. This roadway is in need of urbanization to convey stormwater, update utilities, and better handle the traffic needs. Project scope will include utility improvements, roadway reconstruction with the addition of curb and gutter and sidewalks. Total project cost just under 5 million, and we have this on the urban roads program tip for a $4 million of federal funds with a local responsibility of $1 million. And I'm sure that there's rounding errors that need to be accounted for in some of the way that these are represented, but basically 5 million, basically 4 million, basically. Yeah.
The working session that you want to actually go through the priorities is March 25th, I believe.
I think so. Yep.
So when do you need information back to be able to compile it, be ready for that?
I think we would be able to compile it fairly quickly, but the sooner the better, and the sooner the more we can iterate on these two, because if somebody sends us our priorities, we'd be able to send them back a new priority list, and they,
March 15th.
yeah, March 15th feels good, yeah.
It's 10 days, or do you want to go later, March 20? I mean, you guys tell.
1 week ahead of time, maybe seems appropriate, March 18th.
So
Sooner, if you wanted to have it be a more collaborative process, I'd be happy to help people.
Yeah, if you want a one-on-one meeting with Jared or I, we can definitely walk you through kind of our thoughts on the process, and then if that's easier to digest as a group.
Do you guys feel okay about this process? Overall, just as a concept, does this feel
I like it.
approachable, right? Okay.
Yeah, my goose.
Thought was just kind of to go through the rankings of the projects and then talk about the projects themselves, and you guys had input on the ranking, because if we're just going off Jared's ranking here, I'm sure we're gonna be here for 5 hours talking about, well, this project should be here and that project is there. Or at least if we do this step ahead of time, you guys know that, hey, we kind of prioritize this. Now, does this feel right as a commission?
It's good to be able to have something like this that can be carried forward. Hopefully for years to come. It's template going forward.
Is this the first time something like this has been done here?
That's my memory, to be around the city for 38 years.
So there's usually in November, October, November, the DOT will ask us for our urban transportation projects and how we rank them. So that DOT has an idea of where the commission sees 3 or 4 projects, not 69 projects, but 3 or 4 projects, depending on what funding is available. So this is the first time we've gone into this amount of depth. I think it's from a standpoint of being able to look at, here's how the commission prioritizes these projects, dictates then how do we pay for them versus how much money do we have? Because sometimes, oh, we've got 580,000, let's go pave Highland Road because we can do that and be done. Maybe that necessarily wasn't the highest priority, but those funds were available today. So I think what we want to do is get to a point where here's the commission's priorities. And those can change. They are movable, and sometimes they'll be movable based on funding that's available. Because, Department of Transportation may all of a sudden move. Oh, what did they just move last legislative session? I think all the motor fuels, or a lot of the motor fuels tax money into the flexible funding for DOT. So they created another bucket of money. Well, okay, that wasn't available before. Now it is something they move up the priority list because we have the availability of money. Monty Drive water project probably needed to be done no matter what, but with the availability of RIGOG money, Department of Water Resources grant funds, and utility fund money, it rises to that where, okay, we can do this with minimal, not that $8,500 is minimal on a special assessment to those homes. But without that funding availability now, it would have been $45,000 per house for water. So again, it's not saying this is stamped in Ten Commandment, Moses's stone tablets, but we need a starting point to go for. And I think from a commission standpoint, this is where then we kind of focus our activities and making sure these things happen.
But the outside providers of monies to us could be somewhat heavily influenced by the commission's priorities, so that we would be setting a template for them as well.
Yep, I mean, it always helps if we can go to an outside funding agency and say, this is the commission's priorities, A, B, and C. How can you help us find available money to do that versus this is Jarek's.
Eric's got
We don't
a priority
know.
list here.
Jarek had a good day yesterday, or Jarek had a bad day yesterday. The people on Highland Road really,
Yeah.
man, they were in Jarek's ear all day, so that project all moved, just moved to the top. But so I think it's a good equalizer. Because it will take in all of what you hear from the public and what your thoughts are as elected officials on where should our priorities be and where should we go. It's all not driven by what's the available dollar we have today. It's based upon what we see we may have and what we be able to plan for down the future.
And I think that what's kind of nice about this method would be that you're not really evaluating individual projects, you're more evaluating the goals that those projects accomplish, the types, I mean, that way it's not perceived as you're taking Highland Road, you're putting that to the top of the list because this guy's your friend or anything like that. It's that we are valuing public demand driven projects, and Highland Road scores highly because we're valuing public demand.
It'd be outcome driven.
Outcome driven, yeah, we don't want to be outcome driven. Obviously, but I think that we would want to have wiggle room. It's not set in stone, but we're arriving at it from a fairly as objective of a way as we possibly can for something that is very subjective, like giving input on prioritization.
I think this is a similar process to, I used to help DOT rank trail projects or walking trails. And to be honest, I dreaded it. I did it so that Mandan could have a seat at the table and we're helping DOT so that maybe we get some of that. But you get a book 3 times as thick as the book you're going to get. And you've got 60 trail projects throughout the state of Dakota. And then you have to rate 1 against 2, 1 against 3, 1 against 4, 1 against 5, all the way up to 60. And then you go to the next trail. How do you rank? Is a trail in Hillsborough more important than a trail in Buxton? 2 against 3, 2 against 4, 2 against 5. At the end of the day, your math has to all add up so you know you did it right. But it's not easy because there's a lot of subjectivity in some of these rankings too, but it'll give us a good basis point. At the end of the day, I think you have 15 different folks review trail projects. And then you meet, there's some variables in Buxton got 3 trails funded in 2022. So let's give trail money to Hillsborough. Let's give trail money to Watford City because they haven't for a long time in an application. But if you ever try and judge one walking trail project versus a nothing walking trail project in the towns of 500 people, good luck on trying to decide which one's better. But similar process, at the end of the day, you come out with a pretty good idea of what people's priorities are and as a consensus. So except your homework assignment is
What was it? Again, June 15th?
18th.
18th, day after St. Patrick's Day, so drink some green beer while you're doing it. And I guess from a standpoint of Jarek and Riley. Harry, did you enjoy this?
I just looked at the information that was provided and then tried to figure out that was the structure. I didn't really have that to look at.
Right, yeah, she didn't have the reference material.
Yeah.
Just kind of your overall impressions of what the projects are based on your past knowledge, right, stuff like that, so you're probably only evaluating
So
15 of these projects, yeah, and 16.
will you have a category for commissioner rankings versus staff rankings and see how they compare?
I could, absolutely.
That might be
if we wanted to expand this to have,
Because I think Greg and Justin are looking for things to do.
yeah, right, yeah.
That is funny.
Your 107.5 hours you put in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Don't have anything to do, right?
Yeah, we could approach this any way possible if commission feels like feedback from staff members or particular staff members or whatever might be valuable, we could facilitate that.
And in the world of open meetings, open records, don't call your fellow commissioners and try and persuade them to rank things your way, because that would be a violation. So it's kind of like, do it on your own, get them to us, we'll compile them and bring back a product that says, here's what y'all think. And some of you may say, I said, it's not carved in stone. But there's some wiggle room. You want to look at any other cut sheets in here that you're on the list of, say, 60, 70 projects that you're not quite sure what this one
Can
needs?
you go back to the Island Road?
Yep.
The units.
It's about the only area that we have a project like this,
Can you expand that?
or that's gravel.
Expand this, yeah. There, I'm trying to think, well, currently portions of 8th and 27th are. What was that? Oh, 8 southwest, or yeah, southwest, that's a good point too.
That's on here as well.
It is on here, okay.
Can you zoom out to include the Sunset Red Trail?
If you go back one, Jared, then show the project location,
Back one?
like in your search.
Oh, really? Okay,
There should be a map that shows the project location.
okay.
But Google Earth might be one.
Island Road paving, okay, yeah, I'll go to Google Earth, I think that might be the best way to. So the Highland Road. Is it right here, transition from asphalt to gravel, so it would take point, it would be urbanization or paving Highland Road up a certain amount, I'm not entirely sure what that distance would be. And that would be in relation to Sunset Interchange.
How far does corporate limits extend?
Corporate
to the
limits
curve.
includes these like 4 houses on the east side of Highland Road, and the west side is county.
I thought we put 2 houses on the west.
Does it include 2 houses? It might include 2 houses on the west as well. But yeah, anyways, it's split between the east side of the road and the west side of the road. Which complicates assessments.
But if we would pave that, we would ask that those properties that are in the county right now come into the city so that we could possess them for the cost. We wouldn't do it without that. Twenty at 8th Avenue South.
Yeah.
West.
Absolutely. Part of the Keidel subdivision. This is kind of a major roadway for this area. And it is gravel, and we do get, I think Public Works gets quite a few complaints about it, or maybe I'm.
It's a handful. There's
misspeaking.
a lot more complaints about the movement along it because a lot of the way that the curbs match up to the ditch.
Yeah,
I guess,
the
is-
curve, yeah, the curves kind of just, the curves just disappear and cause erosion issues in some cases, so.
Keep going,
One more, yeah,
yeah, right there is
erosion issue right here,
the back one.
the transition kind of complicates that type of stuff.
There's sheep just right on the west side of it too, a lot of times.
Goats, and mama llama. So on this one, it's another one. If those residents would like that paved, they could petition it in. but it's going to be costly because the west side of Eighth, while it's in corporate limits, is USDA, it's federal government or state government property, and federal state government doesn't pay special assessments. Therefore, the full cost of that road would be borne by everybody to the east. And they don't particularly like that option. But
We did kind of look at this one for a flat grant, federal land access program grant. I don't know if it's kind of vaguely fits the spirit of that.
Very
program.
vague.
Yeah. Very, very vague. So,
So that's USDA land between that road and Highway 6.
yeah,
Northern Great Plains Research, so there's Mama Llama and her bunch of goats, and they're usually there in the summertime.
But not the houses, once you get closer to the river, right? That's city, or is that? Those houses that are tucked in,
Correct.
those are not city or they are?
They are they're out.
there's a hole in here somewhere.
Closer to Highway 6 if you,
Just pull more parcels.
Okay, so the commission did approve annexing those properties with that project, that house being built.
You're cutting out a little bit, Andrew.
They approved everything.
All right, yeah, we just had an annexation on those properties about 2 or 3 months ago for Ken Zander.
Okay. We have our marching orders. Anything else?
Any questions for us? I think
This fits in with
Mhm.
perfectly with the
Yep.
financial plan.
Yep, we want to do this right, so.
So these plans will span missions.
yes.
So you get some unity and direction with one commission, but the justification form should hold to the next elected. You would hope, done properly, this all holds place. Gives them a good place to go. So, any other business? Hearing none, future meetings, there will be. Next city commission meeting is March 4th, next week. And 5:30? Okay. And with that, we're adjourned.
Thank you all.